Welcome to my channel, Duck Potatoes World. This is Mrs. Duck Potato Knits. And recently I put out a video just demonstrating how to knit in reverse. And in that video, I was knitting in reverse when I had very short, like 2, 3, 4, 5 stitch short rows on a large project. So it can be very cumbersome to turn your project, knit 3 stitches, turn a big project, purl 3 or 4 stitches, turn, knit 3, turn, purl 4. That gets really old really fast. And that's a great use for reverse knitting. But another really great use for reverse knitting is when knitting bobble stitch. So you can see here I have a little swatch, and it's just got 4 little bobbles that I have knit for you. Some of these bobbles were knit in the traditional way, turning. Some were knit using reverse knitting. Some were knit from the purl side of the work. So I was on the back side and I made the bobble. And some were made from the front. So in this video, we're just going to cover how to knit bobbles in all of these different scenarios. Okay, so right here you can see I have begun a little swatch. And swatching is a really great way to learn a new technique. All I've done is I've cast on 19 stitches. I have worked 4 rows in garter stitch, and then I'm going to keep a garter stitch border on each side just to help my swatch lie flat, and a stockinette center. So I've knit across, then I've knit 4, purled 11, knit 4, then I'll knit across, knit 4, purl 11, knit 4. Just enough rows so that I can see my stockinette. So I'm ready for the first row that I'm going to put a bobble in. I'm going to knit my 4 edge stitches that are my garter stitch border. Then I'm going to knit the 5 stitches that I'm using as my stockinette base. And now I'm ready to do my first bobble stitch. So the first part of a bobble stitch is to knit in the front and then the back of 1 stitch 3 times so that I increase this 1 stitch into 6. So I knit in the front, leave that stitch on the left needle, knit in the back, leave it on the left needle, knit in the front again, leave it on the left needle, knit in the back again, one more time in the front, and one more time in the back. So it's important to keep these stitches pretty loose because they can get really tight really fast, but I now have 6 stitches where I only had 1 to start. Now my instructions say to, after I finished that last knit in the back, I moved it over to the right needle and I'm going to turn to the purl side. So here's my purl side. I'm going to slip this first stitch purlwise and not work it, and then I'm going to purl the remaining 5 bobble stitches. At this point, I'm again going to turn my work, and I'm going to slip 3 stitches knitwise. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to knit the next stitch. And now this is the part where I'm really going to form the bobble. I've knit this stitch right here. I'm going to take this stitch, which is the 2nd stitch on my right needle, and I'm going to pass it over the stitch I knit. Then I'm going to slip that knit stitch to the left needle, pass over, slip it back to the right needle, pass over, back to the left needle, pass over, back to the right needle one final time, pass over, and I have completed my first bobble stitch. Now you'll see when I pass over that last time, my stitch is on the right hand needle, which is where it needs to be, and I can just continue to knit across my row. And that is the traditional way that you make a bobble stitch. Oops, I don't want to purl here. What am I doing? I'm in garter stitch. I'm going to knit. Pay attention. Yeah, and I like to swatch with just little odds and ends yarn that I have lying around the house. You can see this yarn has been knit and frogged a few times. Now I'm going to just work a couple of rows in my stockinette stitch here, so we can space out our bobbles a little bit, see what's going on. All right, and I've got some space there. You can see my little bobble. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to make a bobble on the knit side of my work. But this time I'm going to show you how to do that using reverse knitting. So there's my 4 border stitches, my 5 stockinette stitches, and here's my bobble stitch. So just like before, I'm going to knit into the front and the back of this one stitch 6 times, so that I have, well, knit in the front and back, I guess 3 times, so that I have a total of 6 stitches. Let's get you guys good and confused here. Knit in the front 1, knit in the back 2, knit in the front 3, knit in the back 4, knit in the front 5, knit in the back 6. You're turning one stitch into 6. But at this point, instead of turning my work, I'm just going to knit in reverse. So that first one is slipped, so I'm going to slip it right on over. Now, to knit in reverse, I'm going to take the point of my left hand needle and put it in my stitch behind my right hand needle. So I'm going to take the point of my left hand needle, enter into the stitch behind my right hand needle. I'm going to take my yarn and wrap it around that left hand needle, and I'm going to bring my right hand needle up and over my left hand needle, and I have knit 1 stitch. Don't worry, I'm going to show you that 4 more times. So my left hand needle is going to go in behind my right hand needle into the back leg of the stitch. I'm going to go around that left hand needle and lift my right hand needle up and over the stitch. Left needle into the right from behind, wrap around and lift the right needle up and over the stitch. Here it is again. And one more time. Oh, you gotta be careful if your yarn is splitty. My yarn's very splitty because, like I said, it has been used a fair few times. So now I have my 6 bobble stitches. I have the one I slipped and the 5 that I knit using backward knitting. Now the next thing I'm going to do would be turn, but I'm already on the knit side, so I don't actually have to turn. But I am going to slip 3 stitches knitwise, knit the 4th stitch, and begin passing the stitches over. So here we are, over, to the left, over, to the right, over, to the left, over, to the right, over one final time. One thing to be careful about while you're doing these little sliding overs on these bobble stitches is you don't want to go past your bobble stitches into your stockinette. That would mess things up and you wouldn't have the right stitch count. But there is our second bobble, and we made that one with reverse knitting. And notice we never had to turn our work. We were able to do it all from the front. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a couple more rows in my stockinette. And notice when you come to these bobble stitches on the wrong side, you just work them like a regular stitch. There's nothing special you have to do. The bobble there just needs to stay in the front of your work. I do usually pull it a little bit tight. I purl the bobble stitch, purl the next stitch, and then I give it a little tug. That just kind of cinches up that hole that can kind of form behind the bobble and helps keep the bobble on the right side of the work. They can pop through to the wrong side with manipulation. So if you kind of just give a gentle tug right there, that kind of helps close up that hole so that they don't do that. But you can see I have 2 little bobbles. Now, so far, we have done both of these bobble stitches from the front of our work. But there may come a time when you need to do a bobble stitch on the wrong side of your work. So we are going to tackle that next. Okay, so here we are. We are on the purl side of our stockinette, and I am ready to work a bobble stitch from the wrong side. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to purl in the front and then knit into the back of this stitch 3 times so that I increase this single stitch from 1 to 6. So when you purl and knit into the same stitch, you have to remember to move your yarn to the back for knitting, and you want to make sure let's see, and you want to knit into the back too, sorry. Make sure that you're moving that yarn between your needles. So you'll purl, move it in the back, knit in the back, move it in the front, purl, move it to the back, knit in the back loop. This is a little bit tight, so you might want to be careful. If you're a tight knitter, you might find that a little difficult. But you see here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. Next, I'm going to turn to the knit side. From here, you notice that my yarn is coming out on the front side of the stitch. You also want to, again, move that yarn to the back. We're going to slip 1 stitch from the left needle to the right needle and not work it, and then we're going to knit 5. All right, again, at this point, we're going to turn our work. And this time we're going to slip 3 stitches from left to right. And then we're going to purl 1. Now we're ready to do the slipping and sliding. All right, so we're just going to pass it over, slip to the left, pass it over, slip to the right, pass it over, slip to the left, pass it over, slip to the right, pass it over one last time, and we have completed the bobble. Now we want to make sure that we're kind of poking that bobble. If it wants to poke out towards you, just kind of guide it to poke out on the right side of your work. We're going to continue to purl, and again, when we come to that purl, if you'll just give it a gentle tug and kind of cinch it up, that will help convince that little bobble to stay on the right side of the work. There we go. And now I have 3 little bobbles all in a row. So we're going to knit a few rows in our stockinette. That way we can get to a place where we can do that same bobble on the back side, but using reverse knitting. Well, actually what we're going to use is reverse purling, if you want to get specific, I guess. So let's knit 2 or 3 rows and we'll do that again. It's a little bit harder to knit, I think, around a bobble than it is to purl around one, but you can do it. Be careful when you're doing these things not to split your stitches. It's really easy when you're knitting these bobbles to get that needle point in between the strands. That's not the right word. I can't think of the right word, but it's really easy to get the tip of your needle into the individual strands in the yarn and split your stitches. And that's not good for your work. It can actually damage the integrity. You can split your yarn, like actually cause it to break, and it can cause you to have extra stitches, and it can cause you to have holes and all kinds of things. So make sure when you have all those 6 tight stitches there in a row that you're putting your needle tip into the correct stitch and only the correct stitch. Plies, that's the word I couldn't think of. You don't want to stick the tip of your needle into the plies. Whoops, you also don't want to purl when you should be knitting, or knitting when you should be purling. Okay, so this is the stitch that will become the bobble. Like before, I am going to purl into the front and then knit into the back of the stitch 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have now made 1 stitch into 6, slide it off the left hand needle there, and I've got 6 stitches crowded on there. Now this is where we turned before, but this time instead of turning, now we are going to purl in reverse. So I need to bring my yarn forward. That's an important thing to remember. I need to bring my yarn forward. I need to slide this stitch over one. Now I'm going to take care of these 4 stitches by purling in reverse. You're going to take the tip of your left hand needle and bring it into that back leg of your stitch from this direction, so that your left hand needle goes in front of your right hand needle. I'm going to show you that again. So you're coming in between these 2 stitches here and forward like that. From here, you're going to bring your yarn forward and over, and then you're going to push that left needle back into that stitch on the right needle and out the back side. Let's see if I can come up with a, whoop, don't split your yarn, a better way to explain that, but we're going to do it 4 more times so you can watch it again. You're going to put that left hand needle tip into the back leg of the stitch and bring it in front of the right hand needle. You're going to bring your yarn around, and then you're going to, I guess you're kind of pulling your right hand needle up over your left hand needle. That's kind of the motion you're doing. And you can see we've purled. So again, find that spot in back here where you're going to insert your left hand needle. Just like that. Bring your yarn over and push it back out the back. One more time. It's a little fiddly at first. Last time here. But once you get the hang of it, it saves a lot of hassle having to turn that work. So we have now purled those 5 stitches in reverse. Again, we're going to now slip 3 stitches. Then we're going to purl 1. And we're going to begin our passing over. Pass it over. Slide to the left. Pass it over. All of the plies over. Come on, there we go. Slide to the right. Pass it over. Slide it to the left. pass it over, slide it to the right, and pass it over one last time. Whoops. If you drop it, don't worry about it. Just put it back on and try again. There we go. So now I've got my single stitch again that I started off with. I'm going to make sure my bobble is pointing in the front and not sticking out the back of my work. And I'm going to purl across the row. And that's it, guys. That's all there is to doing bobbles, traditionally bobbles, or in reverse knitting and reverse purling. If I wanted to finish out this swatch, I could keep going, just like I did this one. I kept going, just so it would be nice and tidy in my stockinette stitch. If you have any questions or suggestions or thoughts on this video, please comment down below. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. We have little knitting how-to videos. We've got a monthly podcast, and we usually have a prize that we give away to one viewer every month. We've got all kinds of fun things here at Duck Potatoes World, and we are so thankful that you joined us. I hope you guys have a great knitting. I hope you, a great evening. I hope that you keep knitting. Have a blessed day.